Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Tony Costa from Toronto Apologetics, and I'm glad to have you along. And thanks for joining me on this brief period where I share my thoughts and my musings on various topics. One of the things I wanted to talk with you about today is what is a woman? As you probably know, Matt Walsh has put out an excellent documentary. If you have not watched it, I encourage you to do so. He's put together a documentary called What is a Woman? And he deals primarily with the whole transgender debate, the debate over gender and what exactly is gender. And as you know, in our society, there has been a lot of debate on this issue called transgenderism. And even to speak about this, and even to critique it in any sense or in any fashion, is to have yourself labeled as transphobic. Now, it is interesting how the progressive movement here in the West has chosen these various terms. You may have heard of terms like homophobia and Islamophobia, and now we have transphobia. We never hear of Christophobia for some strange reason, but that's a topic for another video. When we think of these terms, let's just take the word transphobia. Transphobia, basically, the way the progressive left uses that term, it basically means anyone who criticizes or has any difference of opinion on the issue of transgenderism is a transphobic person. And that word is used in a pejorative sense. It's a way to shut you down. It's a way to censor you. It's a way to stop any debate, terminate any form of criticism that you might have. Now, in the old days, tolerance used to mean I agree to disagree with you agreeably. Let's agree to disagree. We may not agree with each other, but at least we can tolerate each other. We can agree to disagree. Today, tolerance has changed its meaning. It no longer means to simply agree to disagree. Tolerance today means you better accept this narrative or else. Or else what? Or else we will cancel you. And so now you have cancel culture where people are shut down, their businesses are shut down, their reputation is attacked and so forth, they're doxxed and so on and so forth, simply because you have a difference of opinion. You're not allowed to have a difference of opinion. So you see, tolerance is dead. There is no more tolerance. Tolerance has been redefined. So just like George Orwell's 1984, you have newspeak, you have new language, new definitions. And so tolerance today simply means acceptance. And a lot of Christians confuse the difference between acceptance and affirmation. So as a Christian, I can accept every human being as an image bearer of God. I can accept you as a human being made in God's image with dignity and integrity. It's because of that Christian worldview of humans being God's image that I can say that. The atheists cannot say that. They don't believe we're made in God's image. They believe we're evolved from different races and that we have evolved over time, and so we're basically animals with higher consciousness. But it's only the Christian worldview that allows me to say that as a human being, you are entitled to respect and dignity, you have integrity and so forth. Now, acceptance means I can accept you as a human being made in God's image. But acceptance doesn't mean affirmation. It doesn't mean I affirm your sexual lifestyle if it violates God's moral law. If it violates the standards of God's law, I can't affirm that. And so just because I can't affirm your lifestyle or your behavior doesn't mean I can't accept you as a human being. And we need to get those two distinctions correct. And when we fail to understand those distinctions, that's where we run inevitably into problems. So when you look at the word transphobic, it has the word phobia in it, which is the Greek word for an irrational fear. So to have a phobia of something is to have an irrational fear of something. So when you add the word trans and phobia, it translates into you have an irrational fear of someone who is trans or who or who changes or feels that they have a change in identity, which is what the word trans means. And the problem with that is I don't have an irrational fear of people who are transgendered or they're part of the LGBTQ community. I don't have an irrational fear of you. So why are you using these labels? Remember, these labels are they're meant to blackball you. They're meant to shut you down. They're meant to demonize you. So coming back to the question, what is a woman? We can ask the question, what is a man? And we can go on and on and on. But if you remember, Judge Jackson, before she was voted into the Supreme Court of the United States, when she was asked a question from the Tennessee senator about what is a woman, if you remember, her response was, I'm not a biologist. And so here's a judge who's been nominated to the highest court in the United States, and she's asked the question, what is a woman? And her response is basically she doesn't know because she's not a biologist. Is this where we're at today? Is this the point that we've now reached in the 21st century? That we cannot define what a woman is when all humanity for millennia have always understood what a woman is. And yet this question today remains a question that causes people to struggle, to answer, to define, and so forth. And to ask the question, what is a woman, and be given a response such as, well, I'm not a biologist, I don't know, that is the same as someone asking me, what is a cat? And I respond by saying, well, I don't know, I'm not a veterinarian. What is a woman? Well, again, that all comes back to your worldview. In the biblical worldview, a woman is a female human being. And the first time the word woman appears is in the book of Genesis, at the creation, when God created them, Genesis 1:26 to 27, he made them male and female. God defines his image as male and female, as binary, male and female. That's how he created them. And then we are told that he called the male was called man, which is the Hebrew word ish, and the woman was called isha. And so in Hebrew, ish is the word for man. It's masculine, obviously. And the word isha is a feminine noun referring to the woman. And if you notice, there's a correlation between these two words. There's ish and isha. Notice that even phonetically you can hear that, ish and isha. We see that in English as well, don't we? In the word man and the word woman. So if you look at the word woman, W-O-M-A-N, the word woman traditionally is derived from this biblical understanding that woman came out of man. God made Eve out of man, out of his side, out of Adam's side. And so, as much as the feminist movement tries to eradicate the word man, they simply can't do it. I mean, you see the word man in the word woman, you see the word men, plural, in the word women. And when people say, well, we shouldn't talk about mankind, we should talk about humankind. Well, the word humankind also has the word man in it. Humanity has the word man in it. And so with all the political jargon that we keep hearing today, the fact of the matter is that the woman in the biblical account was taken from man. That's why she's called woman. Isha from ish. And it's God who defines us sexually, and it's God who defines us in terms of our genders. And therefore, the Bible tells us what a woman is. A woman is a female human being taken out of man to be his corresponding helper, his helpmate, and that she is made in the image of God. And the name that Adam gave to his wife, Eve, was the word Eve itself comes from a Hebrew word that means the mother of all the living. He gave her that name because she would be the mother of all the living. So this woman, Eve, is the mother of all humanity, obviously. As Adam is the father of all humanity, Eve is the mother of all humanity. And so he gave her that name to indicate that it is the female who is the mother. Now today, we're told that men can be mothers, and women can be fathers, and women can be husbands, and men can be wives. So what you find here is this language of confusion, and this is reminiscent of Babel, of babbling, of confusion, and so forth and so on. But the fact that the question, what is a woman, is a question that people struggle to define, whether they're in the political dimension or the medical profession. Matt Walsh did a great job of showing that. The definition is quite simple. A woman is a female human being that God has created with identifying genitalia, and God has created women so that they can bear children. That's why they have uteruses and so forth and so on. I mean, 50 years ago, if I was having this video with you, most people would think that I was nuts. What do you mean, what is a woman? Was there something wrong with you? I mean, you should get checked in or checked out. And so the only reason that I can talk in this consistent basis, and the reason why humanity for millennia until as of late has always understood the distinctions between a man and a woman, is because God has created human beings, all humans, in his image, and God has placed his moral law in the hearts of all human beings, and God has given us common grace, or general revelation, which you see here in the background here with the beauty of the skies and the trees and the water and so forth and so on. These are all part of God's general revelation. And so humans have intuitively always understood these binary distinctions. And yet today we have children who are suffering from gender dysphoria, who are struggling with their identity. And this is clearly, it's a real disorder. Of course, there's a move now to basically not talk about that as a disorder, to basically regulate it as normative and so forth. And so what do? We have young children, children that we would not allow to vote because they're not of age. They wouldn't allow them to smoke because they're not of age. We wouldn't allow them to drink alcohol because they're not of age. They can't join the army because they're not of age, but yet they can choose if they want to be a boy or a girl. If they're born in a male body, they want to be a girl, or if they're born in a female body, they want to be a boy. We call that progressive, and they support children. And then you have these medical, so-called medical practitioners carving children and cutting breasts off of girls and just emasculating and deforming the bodies of these people, and all of these procedures can never be reversed. Never. You're stuck with it. And there's been a slew of people who've gone through this transition process who are now posting on social media about the horrors that they're facing, the depression that they're facing, that they feel like they've lost their identity, they've lost who they were. And so, folks, we need to defend the biblical principles of gender and sexuality. Sex and gender are interrelated. They're essentially synonymous. You are biologically a male or a female. These are not social conventions. And you're born as male or female because this is how God created us. This is how God made us. And so, as Christians, as the salt of the earth and the light of the world, it's our job. It's our job to stand up and defend biblical anthropology, the doctrine of man, according to Scripture. And only the gospel of Jesus Christ can bring true healing and true deliverance to those who are struggling in this area. And why do people struggle with gender dysphoria? For the same reason that people struggle with all types of different things, and that is because of our fallen nature. We're born into a fallen world, and the fall affects us not just physically, it affects us mentally, it affects us socially, it affects us spiritually. And therefore we need to understand we come into this world as imperfect sinners in need of God's grace. And because of the fall, we are affected in many different areas. And so, folks, I hope that this has been helpful. Thank you for joining me, and look forward to having you again at a future episode. Don't forget to subscribe to Toronto Apologetics, like the video, and subscribe.